Everybody, and we are hot off the press. We got my man Brian Kato in the house. Let me bring Brian online here, and I'll pull this off, which is good. I don't know. I like
How's
your
it going?
hairstyle, Brian.
Oh, I know it's beautiful, twinsies, right?
And I'm growing the beard. However, yours looks a little nicer, a little.
Oh, it's a little trimmed up right now. Yeah, it's a little unruly at times. So
Yeah. You don't dye that at all, do you?
no, it's distinguished, right? The little bit of salt and pepper there.
No, I've been thinking about, well, it's October, and so it's time for me to grow my winter. And I've been thinking maybe I should, put a little dye on there so it's not quite so white. But I don't know. That's the vain.
Now I'm going for the
person.
Santa Claus look eventually.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, anyway, welcome to the show. And folks, you can like, share, follow, all of those things on whatever platform that you're doing. If you have questions, certainly throw them up into the chat and we'll take care of you. Hey, Levy, how you doing, man? Good morning. Good to see you. And Levy, thanks for always jumping on with us every week. Lego. I didn't know if was that in reference to, I didn't think we were live yet. Levy, you have no idea Brian and I were talking about breakfast food. And so all of a sudden the Legos, it was like the Lego waffles.
Oh yeah.
Those are, I like those too. All right. Well, Brian, man, I haven't, when was the last time? Were you at, yes, you were. We were together at Digital Unfiltered in Vegas, having a mind freeze there for a minute.
That was a good time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was a great time. So that was the last that I'd seen you there. So that was back in August. And I don't know, you and I go back years. I'm trying to remember. We probably met
NOLA.
A few years.
The first time.
Was it NOLA or
Vegas?
It was first Mastermind Mansion.
No, I actually wasn't at the Vegas one. NOLA was my first Mastermind Mansion, but I was kind of reflecting on that just probably about a week or two ago, and I was like, that was last year. That's crazy to think that
was that last year? No, it had to be
2022. No, 2022.
Well, but it was like the April or something like that.
Yeah. April 2022. So it's only been like a year and a half.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That was a good trip too. So we've connected. We've been to a lot of different things. You're going to Rockstars, SEO Rockstars coming up next week, right?
That I am, yeah.
I am registered. I do have a registered ticket for it, but I don't think I'm going to make the trip. However, so I will have the recordings, which will be great. But yeah. So
you know that all the good stuff happens at the bar, though.
I know, unfortunately, that is true. All the good secrets happen out there. Yeah. Keto friendly PB&J and honey. Yeah, it's all about food.
I tell you, man, I'm a sucker for breakfast foods.
Oh my gosh, I know it. I love breakfast. I do. I love donuts. So this is my problem. I love breakfast foods, but I like the sweet stuff. It is horrible. That is such a horrible sweet tooth. All right. So I know you're going to Rockstars, and I saw a post, I think, that you did. I might have been yesterday even. But on some of the things, I get my notes, that you were preparing for your presentation at Rockstars. Now, I'm not going to hit you up to share the whole presentation here with us, but I do like, and I'm going to ask if you had anything that you would like to tease us with even, but maybe share. I loved your using conventional tools for unconventional purposes. So when you said we met up at NOLA, I think the first time, and I think And I remember I listened to you present that first time, and you were talking about stuff, and especially with using Google Sheets and Google Docs. And I'm like, I don't know what the heck this guy is doing. It was like, what? That was blowing my mind. I think finally after the third time when I heard you present, I'm like, I think I got it now. Yeah, that was good stuff.
Thank you.
So I don't know
Yeah.
if you want to share any of the unconventional purposes you're doing.
Yeah. So it's going to be a little bit of a leapfrog on what I did in Vegas. So a couple things that we talked about in Vegas were using things like Phrase and Neuron Writer for link building. And using those kinds of conventional tools that you would typically be using for like content writing or content distribution, and leveraging those not only for the content itself but also with the link building component of that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I was just trying to think of. Well, I don't want to dig into that. All right. So I was just like, well, if I open that Pandora box, I don't want to kind of spill everything that I'm sure you're going to share at Rockstar. But yeah. So using those tools, I was thinking maybe you were also going to talk about some of the more unconventional. I was going to transition into using like Sheets or Docs.
Oh, absolutely.
Link building kinds of things. But
yeah, and using Sheets and Docs has been around for a while. I mean, like the concept of using like drive stacks, or I know on one of your recent episodes, you talked about how to leverage press releases and then throw those links into, say, your IFTTT networks. Your I was hearing that as well, like Echo as well, and I don't know if that's me or you. Probably me.
Let me try something here. I'm going to turn my volume down on my.
Okay.
And maybe that will. There. Maybe that will help. All right, I'm back.
Okay. Yeah.
So using Sheets and Docs. So for that, yeah. And so you do some things though with Sheets and Docs that's a little bit different in that you also use them in an interlinking kind of way.
Yeah, and so the concept with, like I said, drive stacks have been around for a really long time. The concept of leveraging any sheet, doc, any of those kind of things, it's been around. The one thing that I tend to do with it is I tend to treat them more like entity hubs, if you will. So one of the concepts behind it is that you treat it. A lot of people will just like try and slam a bunch of links through your drive dot, your stack, be it a Google Doc, a Google Sheet, anything like that. And really, one of the ways that that we've been leveraging it is using it as a content amplifier. So it's still great content. Like the problem with a lot of people when they're leveraging a drive stack is let's be honest, it's kind of a spammy and a lot of times like shitty looking little website or document or whatever. It's amazing what happens though if you take that same document, put a little bit of effort into it, brand it, maybe have a brand guide to start off with, right? Your color codes, everything that looks like it belongs with the brand, and you're not just doing it for the sheer purpose of link building. Granted, there's that component to it, but by taking just a few minutes to actually enhance the overall look and aesthetic of it, it becomes less, I guess, just less spammy. It looks like a branded asset, and that's really what I try to go for. Is it's brand, and then we reinforce brand.
Right.
So, yeah.
I love how you're kind of mentioning about brand, because I've talked about this before with some other folks as well, just about the importance of maximizing your brand across the web, that brand footprint, and I think you're absolutely right. If you're going to do it, then really take the extra steps to
Mhm.
to essentially unify the brand. And I think you're absolutely right about, get your brand colors in there. Be sure your logo is used appropriately the way that you want it. Use your brand, the company name, or the full nap of the brand in there as
Right.
well. It all becomes very critical in helping to reinforce, I think, your brand footprint across the net.
Absolutely, and I know that several people, Terry, Clint, I know a lot of these guys talk about, use schema, right? And the whole idea of that too is also letting the search engine know, like, hey, look, my brand is over here, my brand is over here, my brand is over here.
Right.
This is me, and that's really kind of the way that we tend to approach it. Is it's for us, links have to fall into one of two buckets, right? And this isn't a unique concept. It's just something that I think that it really helps kind of distill the confusion, and really what my goal with Rockstars is going to be is like showing people like link building isn't as difficult as people make it out to be. It really isn't.
Hmm.
One of the things that you can look at though is it needs to fall into one of two buckets. Is it topically relevant, or is it thematically, or topically and thematically relevant, or is it locally relevant if you're doing, say, like a local business? And if it falls into one of those two buckets, you're good to go. I mean, it could be local but not topically relevant. Totally fine for a local business. That
Right.
that kind of
Right.
building works great. Your chamber of commerce, perhaps a fundraiser that you're doing for the local school, right? It's a local link. It works great for you at a local level. Or you can go into the thematic end of things, which that could be non-local, it could be national, it could be just whatever, but that's then going to be thematic with your brand. So
Mhm.
for us, just it has to fall into one of those two buckets. If it does, then it's a qualified link.
Right, right. Are you thinking, and we'll just kind of stay on the theme about local
Yeah.
anyway. Do you utilize some of the local what I'll say publishing sites, but like Patch or Neighborhood? Do you utilize any of those for
Mhm.
your link building strategies?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love all links. I'll be honest. There's rarely a link that I won't use. It depends on where I'm going to put it in the hierarchy of in my tiers, right? Is it going to go directly to my brand, or is it going to go to a supporting brand element, such as my Facebook, my Twitter? That I see a lot of people that they get so concerned, and I guess this dives into a little bit of the Rockstars presentation as well. But I see a lot of people that get really concerned about building links directly to the money site or to their
Right.
primary asset, but they neglect to do things like, are you building links to your Twitter profile?
Hmm.
No. Are you built, or X, I guess is what we're going to call it now. Um,
Right.
which that's a whole nother thing, like worst rebrand ever. We'll get into some neuromarketing and things like that later, but
Yeah.
like, oh my God, talk about a horrible like shift in rebrand. Like, I'm just still like, all right. But the whole idea is that if you have any of these branded assets, like I said, Twitter, your Facebook, your Instagram, like, are you actively building links to those as well? And that's where I
Hmm.
think things like your press releases, those kinds of things can really kind of help out, because number one, you're building your brand, which again we always go back to that brand. Google loves to see that. Number two, the other thing that we're able to do is high tides raise all ships. So if I can bring up everything, then it
Right.
makes all of my assets and all of my properties more valuable, and I have the
Yeah.
potential to take up more places on that SERP.
Yep. Yep. Well, and we love to do, especially for our clients, we always are linking in a press release. We're always linking one of their branded foundational accounts, whether it's
Yep,
X or LinkedIn or a
totally.
Facebook or a company page on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube channel. We're always linking one of those profiles into a press release. And we do that, to your point, kind of, rising tide raises all ships, but we're also kind of hearkening back to what we had mentioned earlier. We also want to be sure that we're connecting this relevant content that we're talking about with the brand or the company in the press release we're trying to be sure that we're making that connection as well with one of those branded foundational accounts. Like, hey, Brian is talking about his great services over here in this press release, blah, blah, blah. And this is Brian. This also is Brian's company page on LinkedIn, right? But connecting all of these things together and being sure that the search engines are making that distinction as well is just another way to continue to drive that what I think that brand credibility and authority across the web, across all platforms with your brand. And you can do that, with almost anything, any branded piece of asset or property that you have. I think you could absolutely build links to it, and which could be. I've been loving, and I know Jesper, but Jesper just did something a week or two ago on Wakelet, which I think is just a fabulous one of those Web 2 properties. But you can really build out a very strong branded profile on Wakelet and get a very nice, powerful do follow, and continue to use and update and put content on there and continually feed that thing, and link that or link to that from other, as a press release, and we've done that in the past, link to Wakelet profile accounts.
Absolutely. And it's, anytime that you can identify who you are, what you do and where you do it. The idea here is that, and I'm finding this even more so with helpful content, right? So helpful content, being able to kind of inject your entity or your brand in with other and related brands or entities. Being able to do that, number one, and number two, if you're taking that and you're saying, hey, look, this is who I am, where what I do and where I do it, you're giving Google the information it needs to establish, yes, this is an actual person. It's not just some content writer or blogger that is some faceless account. And I know that for some people they don't feel comfortable getting behind a camera. They don't feel comfortable doing stuff like this where it's
Hey man, I'm not even that comfortable.
But
I always thought, well, I'm a much better voice for a podcast than I am doing a live stream. But I don't know. Somebody encouraged me, no, you should do a live stream. It would be good.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, all right, I'll give it a shot. But who wants to see the bald magic going on here? But all right.
Yeah, well, and so what's funny is I think with helpful content, there's a couple things going on there. One of my observations with it is, number one, it's being able to tie almost like a cited sources, right? Being able to say, yes, this is Randy. Randy is a news guy. He owns 38 Digital. Here's all of these properties around you. You have a profile. I would be really scared to see what my profile looks like. But at any rate, you have a profile built around you. And what I think is really interesting, little bit of a nugget here and something for you to kind of go down a rabbit hole on. I don't think that authorship ever truly went away. For us, that circa, what was that, 2010-ish? 2011, 2012, Google authorship. I'm not sure how many people have been around in the industry that long, but what I think is really interesting is that a lot of these similar concepts of who you are, what you do, and where you do it, this goes back to kind of how authorship was initially and foundationally put together, right? They wanted to know that who you were, here's all of your social profiles, here's how we can find you online, and making those semantic connections. And I look back at how that process worked, and granted, you can't go to Google authorship anymore. I mean, they killed that one effectively, but
right.
A lot of those same concepts are reemerging in helpful content. And I'm finding that really, really interesting in a lot of the testing that I'm doing, which has also got me kind of going back down the rabbit hole of, if that's something circa 2010 that is kind of emerging and some of those similar concepts are kind of coming back, what else is coming back?
Right.
Because as soon as Google opens or closes one door, they open another or two or three.
Right.
And
Right.
so that's one of the things that I'm kind of going back and looking at. What is it that we can actually go back, evaluate, and say, oh, okay, well, maybe this actually still works again. I know for a while, even with press releases, people were abusing them for like, again, 2010, 2011, 2012. Panda comes out in 2010. They like lay the smackdown on all this stuff, and people are like, oh my God, press releases don't work anymore. But if you continued to do that, you would see the benefits of it. Again, it goes back to the idea of do all the things, right? What should you be doing for SEO? All the things.
Everything. Yes.
Yeah.
Everything.
And so if
Hey, I
they
have a
turn down
question
the
for you.
dial on links, yeah,
Yeah.
go for it.
So, in your, you brought up the whole helpful content
Sure.
update, and I know a lot of folks in various circles that I'm in do specifically affiliate or blog sites. Pamela, that's on. She's got a pretty large site that she works on. And there's been a lot of this conversation about helpful content and the helpful content update and how it's impacted those kinds of sites in particular, some of the affiliate sites and or blogger sites specifically that may be just driving revenue because of ad streams, right, that they're showing on those. Thoughts about building links or kind of battling that on those particular sites, and
So number
along the lines
one,
that we're talking about.
yeah. So number one, having a site that you're just doing, ads and kind of affiliate stuff. Uh, I'm going to preface this right now. Pardon the language, but don't fuck with Google's nut. All right. That's number one. If you're competing with Google on their ad revenue, they're not going to be happy. Point blank. I would argue a little bit of an unpopular opinion, but I think that it's shared throughout certain corners of the industry. I don't think Google is a search engine anymore. They happen to do search better than most people on the market. However, my honest opinion is if you look at what Google has done and the way that they have like progressively shifted more towards in favor of paid ads, if you're following the antitrust case, there's a lot of interesting talk about that.
Right.
I mean, just hell, look at your phone, right? Pull it up, look for any kind of service, and it's ad. You have to do almost two and a half scrolls past the fold before you're even into like organic. I mean, at least one and a half scrolls before you're even in maps.
Right.
I mean, you're telling me that like they're not about their ad revenue. Come on, like let's be
Yeah.
honest here. So that's number one. Like, don't mess with Google's like ad stuff. If anything, be a part of it. If you can't beat them, join them, and leverage ad revenue. So that's number one. Number two, the thing that I would say about that is, hey, what's up, Joseph? The other thing that I would look at here as well with it is a lot of people will just go in and they'll just start posting content for the sake of posting content to try and get it to rank. What I'm seeing work really well with that are, if you are theming it, if you are doing affiliate type sites, provide contrarian or opposing kind of opinions of it. So, hey, this new Nikon camera is great. People also are interested in this Canon EOS or this other kind of DSLR or a mirrorless camera, right? So you're doing this internal linking and providing people with this internal structure that says, hey, look, we understand like if you're in the market for cameras or digital cameras, you're probably looking at all of these other things as well. And I think really one of the ideas that we've actually seen good results out of with helpful content is when we're writing this, we are actually anticipating what the next question is. So any of my team, one of the things that they're thoroughly trained on is if you're reading or even writing a particular piece of content, you probably have questions that are coming up as you're writing it. So using the camera example, like, what the hell is a mirrorless versus non-mirrored camera? Great, jot that down. We're going to write a blog about that. You can use a lot of your other tools. pick whatever it is, maybe it's SEMrush, Ahrefs, if you just like looking at the Google SERP, um, do whatever you want to do there, but cover it from all angles. And it goes by whatever kind of name that we want to call it: topical authority, topical relevance, keyword clustering, LSI, TF-IDF. Like, I don't give a crap. It's as many of the keywords and you do all the things, right? So if when you are writing content, if you can cover it as comprehensively as possible, you win. I mean, we've seen this in we have a client in the addiction and rehab space. We're seeing great results with that. We have clients that are local plumbers, and as long as we're covering, concrete companies, as long as we're seeing as long as we're covering those topics in its entirety, we're seeing great results. It's when we just it's that whole idea of, here's a thin piece of content, or here's just stuff that we wrote it for SEO, or we wrote it for search volume. I guess that's another real pet peeve of mine when it comes to SEOs and kind of the way that we approach stuff, is everyone gets really hung up on these unicorn metrics. They get hung up on UR and DR and page authority. No, Google doesn't give a crap about any of that. Those are made up things by software companies, and I use these software as well. It's a good idea to determine whether it's hot, cold, what end of the spectrum are we sitting on here with a particular website. But overall, you can get a pretty good feel if you know an industry, whether or not you're covering a topic in its entirety, or if you're covering content thoroughly. So, I mean, you use Google too, zero search volume or low search volume, that works great. It may not be a primary, piece, pillar piece of content, but hey, we're going to throw it into the blogs. We're going to cover it.
Right.
And I think
what do you think
AI,
about? Yeah, along the same lines, do you think that the concept of, and I know a lot of folks can still take this approach, actually, and we'll swear by it, really of creating content silos, right? So they may still create a big pillar article on a particular theme, and then get really narrow on supporting articles for that, whether it's putting a metal roof on your house, and then they'll come at it with multiple articles attacking all of those, how to do it, how to shop for, what's the material for a tin roof, boom boom boom, so that it's all topical, tied into maybe that original pillar piece of content. What do you think about
I think
that?
planning is huge. Planning is
Mhm.
100% huge. And one of the things that I tend to do is it's kind of a hybrid approach between a virtual silo, where I don't like doing it typically within the URL structure. But I like doing a lot of virtual silos. So again, this is where you have to plan stuff out, mainly because we deal with sites that aren't just they're not just your WordPress sites. I do a lot of Cold Fusion, HTML sites.
I can just for the benefit of folks watching, can you define, as you're using that term, virtual silo? What do you mean by that?
So a virtual silo, for anyone that's watching, is instead of putting it in a categorical hierarchy where you have website.com / roofing / metal, or it's actually in your URL structure. Oftentimes what we'll do is we'll create a virtual silo. So it'll be website.com / metal roofing. So we keep the actual page a little higher, and it's not buried or nested in that URL structure. Anytime that we go with a slash, you're actually nesting it within something. Now, the thing with a virtual silo is that your internal links become very, very important, because if you're internally linking out to other components, other elements of it, if you're doing it haphazardly, that can cause issues. If you do it with a bit of forethought and strategic planning behind it, it can be incredibly effective. And a lot of what we look at is it's either a true silo, like a true virtual silo, where we're linking things internally within one particular thing, or we do more of a cluster silo, where it's more like a Wikipedia type approach, where if we're talking about all of these specific topics, we have a particular page that links to. So if we're talking about, again, DSLR cameras or a particular topic, that's going to link to a page about DSLR cameras. And then if we have a Nikon page, it's going to link to that page. So we kind of create this mesh type of approach there when it comes to internally linking. No different than, you hear this a lot with, and I think that there's quite a bit of truth between the idea of, white hat, black hat, and every kind of hat in between, right? I think that a lot of people get really hung up on, or at least it's been my observation, people get hung up on, oh, well, this is a black hat approach, this is a white hat approach, this is, whatever. And I see it as more of like, it's just SEO, right? Or it's just, if you want to even go into, it's marketing with subsets of CRO, SEO, content, neuro marketing, things like that. So I think that they're all tools in your toolbox. There's definitely specific purpose for it. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is, are you getting people to the right place at the right time in their buyer journey? And if that means that you have to, that you bend a few rules, then that's what you do. And you need to up your content game. Because the way I see it is that this whole concept of white hat, black hat, all this it's really a way for agencies to create an us versus them situation.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, Google could really give they really don't care one way or the other. Like, it's a mathematical equation, and if you can do complex calculus and win, and you're better off than someone having to do 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 doing math longhand that way, you win. Does that make you a bad person? No, it just means that you can do more advanced math than someone, and I think that understanding those kinds of concepts, where it's not even a white hat, black hat thing, it's risk mitigation. Does this provide valuable results, and does it have a low amount of risk? Does it provide low amount of results and very high risk, right? You have to look at those kind of situations and really determine whether or not it's a good fit for you and, the particular client.
Right. So I know you love, so we're talking about link building and such. So I do want to hit, is there any difference in from a linking strategy or an approach? So when we were talking about, like the affiliate sites or the blogging sites and building that content and kind of the purposes around that, do you take any different approach from a link building, whether it's something like that or those type of sites, or versus if it's a local roofing company?
Yes and no. So the concepts behind it do not change. And that's even one of the things that I've taught at several of the conferences and things like that, is I tend to teach them in fractals. It's repeating patterns that happen over and over and over again. And that never changes. I mean, the whole concept of, you've got this one property and you're going to need links to it. And how do we go about building that? We're going to build a tier 1 to it, tier 2, and we tier out our links like that. We're going to build to social properties. We're going to build like all of these other things like that. That never changes. The specificity with it, that may change, because local is going to require a different subset of those links. You're going to want those, again, those like Chamber of Commerce, the local types of links, as opposed to just thematics, right? And when it comes to national, you're not necessarily going to want to drill down into a local level. We've done that, and we've done that both for test websites where we've like gone ham on like aggressive link building, and we tried to zero in on like specific states and stuff like that, and we actually caused more issues than if we just said, hey, look, this is just the thematic, this is the topical part of it. When we started drilling down into each individual state, you'll see this a lot of times with service industries, that perhaps you're wanting to blanket out at a state level. Now, if you're doing that, that's when we would do kind of a hybrid approach, where we're looking at it saying, okay, well, we need to have the local presence, but then, we also need to have that national and topical kind of presence as well.
Good. All right, I'm just going to remind folks, hey, if you have any questions
What's up, JP?
for Brian, absolutely, throw them up here. Hey, Jordan, good to see you, man. Thanks for hanging out with us. And I did like this comment from Reb.
Absolutely.
Old is
Right?
new sometimes, right? Yes, I do think, I agree. I think some of the old stuff probably kind of circles back around as Google made changes or whatever to like knock some things out 10 years ago, and then they've layered back in, and then I think maybe that code is gone or something. I don't know.
Well, and I think what they do, I think a lot of times what they do with these core updates is they're like, man, like, and I've seen this happen over and over. There was a time where like I said, press releases, like they really ramped up like like how aggressive they were with pursuing
Right.
that, and then they're like, okay, like you know, I think it's one of those things where they're like, people, cool your shit, all right,
Yeah.
just calm down, knock it off, and then they're like, okay, like we're gonna dial that back a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it'll still work, but like
Yeah.
people aren't being as aggressive with it, and that's I think that's true with a lot of different tactics, where it's where they'll really get aggressive with like, we do not like this, you know, we hate the fact that people are aggressively link building, so we're going to come out with Panda, and
Right.
then you know people are like, oh god, like better back off on link building. Whereas if you just like stayed like, do it you know, do it reasonably. I wouldn't even say in moderation, like do it reasonably. Like don't be like, we're gonna get like 6 billion links and it's gonna be fantastic, right? You're being an outlier and you're being too aggressive with it. Like
Right.
do it moderately, do
Yeah.
all the things, but
Yeah.
don't neglect any of the things, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and I've
Yeah.
heard
Well, that's what I think, and you alluded to something maybe similar to this concept, which is, you know, the activity that you're doing, maybe around from the SEO standpoint, and thinking about link building and what have you. Is it what a reasonable company or brand would do, right? So
yeah,
getting 6 billion links in a matter of a few days, probably not reasonable. But you know, getting a few hundred links in a given month
yeah.
because you've got great content and people are linking out to that content, that's not unreasonable. Absolutely. Um,
Mhm.
I have a question for you. So
Sure.
this was, I don't know, last week or maybe was really hot conversation in a couple of circles. And I was following on LinkedIn actually on this about building links organically. We'll just say that, or having links organically come,
Mhm.
or buying links. And is there, you know, and people will just trash the idea about buying links, right? Just
This was actually
versus,
a pretty
you know,
hot topic. No, I there was actually a topic I was involved in earlier this week. I guess it was
yes,
2 days
right.
ago.
I know. I don't know what
So,
all of a sudden this like blossomed out of. I don't know where it came from, but man, they've
so
just got vehement arguments about this.
the thing that a lot of people fail, and it, I think it also is perspective as well. I know that a lot of us here have, you know, if we've been in the game a little bit, and anything even like pre Panda, pre Penguin, like if you've been in SEO before then, you know that link building is a natural thing that you have to do. I mean, there's no way
Right.
around it. Like, or the whole idea of just build it and they will come is utter nonsense. It's unicorn farts and rainbows, right? It there's that doesn't happen. Like the whole concept of marketing is promotion, right? And this notion of you just create so much awesome content that that people can't help but link to it is just ridiculous. It's completely asinine. Um, I often will tell like you know, anyone that we're working with, it's kind of like, I'm not sure if you guys watch South Park at all, but it's like the underpants gnomes, where it's phase one, collect underpants, phase two, phase three, profit. And
Yeah.
it's you're like, all right, you're missing like a really important part here. Um, I see link building in a lot in that same way. Now, again, I like all the links. It depends on, you know, I'll use even Fiverr links. the thing is I don't put those anywhere near my primary site. Just it's not a good idea. Um, if I'm building up like my Twitter stuff, yeah, we'll consider it. But the whole idea is that don't discount something just because you test it, see what happens. If it works, awesome.
Right.
Do a little bit more of it.
Yeah.
If not, then move on. Right? Don't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Definitely don't put it anywhere close to something you care about. Um, I think what's interesting though is as I was preparing for the Vegas conference, well, I ran across one thing that was really interesting, and surprisingly, it was in, I want to say, Search Engine Land or Search Engine Journal. But what a lot of people don't remember is that buying links used to be a white hat tactic pre-Panda and pre-Penguin. It was a commonplace, and it was actually encouraged within the white hat community. Why? Because it was chalked up to marketing. Well, you need to have, you need to promote, and you can have a link placed on some kind of website, and then, great, here you go. That was a commonplace. Happened all the time. Then Google got really aggressive again, as they do. SEOs, we tend to ruin things. We like doing things not just here, but to like up above, through the ceiling kind of level. So there we go. We abuse it, and now Google says, hey, you can't have nice things. They take it away, or they roll it,
Right.
roll some of the effectiveness back. From there, I think what ends up happening though is that people started link building again, and this is where Google's, if you go and read their webmaster tools, they're like, yeah, we actually understand like link building is kind of a commonplace, but what you should do is you should mark it as a UGC or sponsored or something like that. Which, if anyone actually looks into what those rel tags do, it is essentially neuters the power of your link. It makes it a 302 essentially. So you want me to self-report something that like even you as a company don't necessarily follow? Fuck you, Google. Like, I mean,
I know, right? Yeah.
seriously, like that makes zero sense, and like that just is, it's completely asinine to me. Like the whole concept. Now you need to do it smart, right? Don't go out there and again, don't go building like a bunch of like crazy links to yourself. But like
Right.
looking at that seriously from a standpoint where it's like you want me to self-report my own links and tell you that yes, I have been buying links and all this, and then you're gonna like, bless me and do all of this kind of stuff. Like, come on. The average person doesn't know to do that, and that's I think as SEOs we get caught up into this whole idea of, well, what does Google say? Like Joe the plumber doesn't give a shit. He just wants to. He's gonna put out content, and if it ranks, wow, look at this! I magically ranked. Awesome! Look at that! Look at that! I did it twice. I should probably go play the lottery today, right? And I think that's one of the things that we often get caught up with is like all of the metrics, and we think that Google is this big confusing kind of thing. At the end of the day, SEO really hasn't changed a whole lot. There's nuances, and it's definitely gotten more technical if you wanted to go down that rabbit hole. But if you look at things like W3C compliance, Google has to take the knee to that. That's what the web's built on. Google has to pay attention to that. So if you're looking at what makes a good website, what's W3C compliant, clean code, and you just so at a technical level, you handle all that. But then at a foundational and content level, you treat it like, I forget that you're an SEO, write it as if you were some business owner that just wanted to get their name out there. And I think in many ways, Google also, like, it's a love-hate relationship with us SEOs, because they really dislike, they really dislike SEOs in general. I mean, we're trying to get free traffic. And again, I would argue the fact that I don't think they're really a search engine anymore. They've become a monetization platform that just happens to do search better than anyone in the marketplace at the current time. They don't like SEOs because we're trying to get free traffic from them. They would much rather us pay for it. Fair enough. They have shareholders, they have stakeholders. I'm cool with that. on the flip side of that too, though, if it wasn't for us SEOs, imagine what the SERPs would look like, because I would be very hard pressed to find any plumber that really gives a crap about like how to replace corroded pipes, other than the fact that they may want like their 15 minutes of fame on YouTube and want to do that. But like a lot of that kind of content that Google relies on and that really enriches
Right.
their platform, it's based on SEOs that they're like, hey, as a plumber, you need to have this content, otherwise you're not going to
Right.
rank, or
Right.
these other plumbers are going to
Right.
pull up above you. So let's create a bunch of like really comprehensive
Right.
case studies and content and all this.
And,
So
or
yeah,
if you do see the plumber that does put out some like great content, he's doing a video and then he's got the article. He's only doing that because he's like, "Oh, I see these SEO guys doing that, and that's
yeah,
what I need to do in order." Yes.
I'm not going to pay. My family's not going to eat unless I play the game. And
Yes.
so
Exactly.
I think that that's a really interesting way to, to kind of see that dynamic, is that like Google really doesn't like SEOs. They don't. They tolerate us, and it's because we're also contributing to the platform. And then
Right.
you get into this whole like the, or white hats or ethics or black hats,
Right.
and
Right.
they're scary people and all this. But at the end of the day, really it comes down to like, are you getting stuff? Are you getting stuff on
Yeah.
Google? How are you helping that out? Right. I mean, that's at
Yeah.
the end of the day, that's what we look at. So
Yeah, yeah. No, I completely agree. And I've always thought that my position on Google has always been that they are a ad platform, and that happens to do search because that's what they're attracting people uh, onto their platform, because they're there searching, but
mhm,
they really are there to serve up ads. That's their
totally.
main purpose.
Now
Yeah.
back in the late '90s when Google had originated, like totally, they were a search engine. They've
Right. Oh,
evolved. They've
then
evolved.
yes,
And
yes,
they have shifted their focus away from that search engine to, we
yeah,
are a monetization platform. I mean,
yeah,
and the thing is, you look at anything from like your LSAs, your Google guaranteed ads, which for service industries, those are actually, they work really well. They can be very effective. You go into, say, your display ads, you go into that. I know Ted Kubitis has talked a lot about the updates that happen frequently right before Black Friday or within the month of November. I'm still expecting an
right,
update
right.
here towards the end of this month. Um, we'll see how that plays out with all of the focus on AI. But I would be real. All honestly wouldn't be shocked in the least bit to find out that November 1st we have some massive shakeup, that now in order for businesses to compete, as Ted's pointed out for several years, that you're going to need to do ads, say, if you want to compete on Black Friday for people.
Yeah,
And I think that recognizing that and understanding that that Google has shareholders, they have stakeholders,
yeah, yeah,
they're going to do what's in their best financial interest.
yeah, yeah. Well,
And that,
I've always believed, and I could never. Well, I shouldn't say that I've never. I haven't actually plotted it and done a case study, but I am, and maybe this is just me being the cynical person, I guess, is that I think you have a much better opportunity to rank a brand or your content if you're also spending some dollars on ads monthly as well. So if I just spend 100 or 200 bucks a month doing some ads on my brand or whatever, and then I'm also trying to do all of this other SEO stuff on my site to try to
yeah,
boom push it up, I think I get better results.
we've tested
it
that. Yeah.
just I can't like go, yes, I turned the ads on here and then it all started, because we just kind of build it into our process with our clients. But um, if cynically, it's like, well, it makes sense. Why wouldn't Google like, hey, here's Randy over here. He's spending ads and he's doing some pretty decent content stuff. So we're going to offer him up. This is a much better deal than Brian over here, who's doing good content, but he's not spending any money with us. So, hey.
Yep. Be a customer of Google. Don't be a leech. right? I
Yes.
mean, that's the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
concept behind
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And what
Now,
I've
trying to prove that, I don't know if I could prove that directly, and I'm sure that many other people have tried.
so the what we found with it is it's Google will say that ads don't directly affect ranking. And to a large part, I would agree with that.
But I
However,
think they would have to say that,
however,
right? There's
underscore.
no way they could admit, like, oh, sure. They would be screwed. They would be sued left and right.
This is the however and huge underscore. However,
Yeah.
if you're running ads and you get click through rate, because click through rate like does affect things. I mean that has been tested. Where if you get a larger click through rate and you get engagement on your website, that's actually a positive signal that then will push up
Right.
your website on Google. So directly running ads, it's by itself does not affect your ranking. However, running ads, getting engagement, getting people to your website that interact with it, that are actually like doing things. You've got dwell time on the site, interaction within the site, showing positive user intent. You've got all these other things. That, however, is a positive ranking signal that will boost
Right.
your website.
Yeah.
So by its and again, it's one of those like they split hairs and yeah, JP's saying here
Yeah, I
he's
know.
already proven ads do affect it and they do affect organic.
Yeah.
100%. Like you're getting
Yeah.
traffic to the website. It has to, you're showing positive user intent.
So the question is, so do the ads impact positively only because you're getting traffic to the site and engagement, or do the ads impact because you're spending money with the entity that is essentially lording over the search ranks?
I think that's a chicken and the egg kind of an argument personally.
Yes.
But
So
I
I don't know.
there's a synergy between the two. And
Yes,
whether one is mutually exclusive of the other,
I
I
know it.
can't say
I
for
know it.
sure. However, 100%, if you're running ads, you will tend to see correlationally, you will tend to
Yeah,
see your organic, your maps, like all
yeah,
of this
yeah.
jump up because
But
again,
is it the causality? Right. That's the
right.
question. Jordan says you have to send to the organic page. That's why I don't make landing pages and ads.
Mhm.
Make the page high converting. Yeah. That is interesting. So Jordan, you don't do specific landing pages for ads. You send them directly into the organic page that you're driving for. Hmm,
Mhm.
that's good. Tyler, they're teaching kids in schools to skip ads when using search engines. Yeah, well, that's
What's
good.
interesting with that though is that they're taking the ads and they're making them look. If you look at the history of an ad or the way that Google has done ads, they're making them look more and more like organic results between the your site links, the various
Right,
things.
right.
Ads, I think, are a necessary evil that, and depending on how you want to approach it, right? I like running ads for competitors. Like we'll run them directly on competitor names, target stuff like that, so that we may not organically be able to rank immediately for someone's name, but I can sure as hell buy my way into that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so those are
absolutely.
some of the things that we tend to look at. Ads definitely do have a much lower stick rate, and it's kind of like turning on the faucet, right? As soon
Hmm. Oh, froze up with Brian. Let me refresh this.
quickly run
Oh no, Kato is gone. Oh, what happened to my man? Ah, all right. I don't know what happened to Kato. He just dropped out. But anyway, I love what I love Jordan's idea as well. Also, if you're having issues with indexing a page, then create an ad. I think that is probably, here comes Brian back. We'll let him back into the house here. That is a great idea. So I wonder, so Jordan, I'm going to ask you a question just because, here he is, just because you threw out this about not creating landing pages specifically for ads. So Jordan, do you specifically then, you're making that organic page really hot. Are you doing anything else to that organic page aside just from sending ads? Are you doing, I don't know, other link building kinds of activities and things like that? I'm curious on if you're doing some of the other things. Everybody would generally, the school of thought is if you're going to run an ad, you should do a specific landing page so that you're getting the conversion of some sort on there. So interesting. Brian, glad you made it back. I don't know what happened. You froze up. You're going on a line. That was good.
It's all good.
I like this, Nigel. Hey, Google Sheets got him.
Yeah.
Hey, before we do run out of time, I got a couple of questions I want to ask you. So I know that you do, and you've presented this so well about how you're using Google Sheets and some of the stuff that we do with our PRs to help boost out our PR links.
Yep.
I picked up from you, learned from you, and with Google Sheets. I have a question for you just on specific. So, and this is probably getting really down into the weeds. You've got Google Sheets and you're interconnecting or interlinking Google Sheets, placing them into a folder. And one of the things that we do as well is that we take a Google Doc, we place our PR article on there, and then we put a bunch of those news site links after we've done the press release for the article, put that onto that article, and then we make that, or we publish that article of that Google Doc out to the web, right? Trying to make that public.
Yeah.
So here's the question for you. Do you have to take that article, that doc, that Google Doc, after you make it published or publish it, do you also have to be sure that it's in a public folder, or does that really have any impact or not?
Public folders will help considerably. So if you know how to do that, then yes, that will considerably help facilitate what you're trying to accomplish there. You can, depending on what you're doing with it, you can take and create it just for the web. Now, the thing is if you publish it to web, you're essentially creating a website with that. And what's interesting is, so when you're creating that to the web, there's a lot of really cool things that you can do. In particular, you can save as, and any of the assets that are on there, you can also repurpose. So I've done this a lot with one of the things I was showing some people how to do is, like, you can even within Sheets, you can create QR codes, save to the web, and then download all of those QR codes and then repurpose those. So a little fun thing for you guys to play around with there. But there's a lot of really cool, they're different purposes. So publish to web, it has a very different purpose than public folder. So I'll leave it at that. Right. And yeah.
Just as we're on this topic, Joseph asked, would it be advantageous to run clicks to those public folders, public doc, with the PR and links? So I will say yes, because what we do on this strategy, so is what I explain, and we'll put them in. We'll do that for the first PR. The second PR will come back, and I'll take that link to either that public folder or that public doc, and we'll use that as an anchor link within PR number 2. so that we're using that second PR and all of those news sites essentially as tier 2 links to that public folder and power
PR
that
stacking.
mother up. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
PR stacking.
Yeah. It's a good strategy. All right. So Jordan comes back, answers my question. No, because for ads, especially local, your ad score goes up when you are more focused. MD have the keywords on the page. What is that, MD?
I think and.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Typo, yeah.
Cost per click goes way down.
Yep.
That's all advantageous all the way around. That I like that.
And that's definitely an interesting thing because ads are an inverse relationship. So that the higher clicks you get, the obviously it's an inverse pattern. I'm a math nerd and like doing stuff like that. But if you actually plot it out on a graph, they're inverse relationships. So ad cost goes down as engagement goes up with it. And that's exactly what Jordan's talking about there. Your ad score goes way up when it becomes more focused. You have the keywords on it. Because your quality score goes up, ad cost goes down.
Nice.
And then if you get actual clicks through and engagement on that, then your cost goes down even more.
Yeah. All right. Very cool. Hey, got a question for you on my other top question. AI. You doing any? I'm going to ask you. I was coming up at some point. I know she's going to reschedule the Dark AI conference with Holly Starks. I think you participated in the original one.
Yep.
So do you have any kind of fun AI tips or secrets you'd like to share?
You should probably book your plane ticket to Rockstars is all I got to say.
There we go. Well, I have my ticket for Rockstars, so I'll listen to the recording.
Yeah, no, there's some fun stuff that I'm doing with AI, and there you can do some really interesting things. I've been kind of in the thick of it right now. I have been playing around with what is it? It's the Google Duet. So they actually have it's really cool kind of a thing. They have a playground where you have access to things like their Palm language model, Llama, which is Meta's. There's some really cool stuff that you can play around with there. Been playing around with that one for a few weeks, and that's some real fun stuff. They have different API connectors and things like that we can tap into, which is fun.
Yeah. I can only imagine you're being the mad scientist, what some of your Google Sheets look like with AI embedded and or connected. You're probably doing some crazy house building techniques of some sort.
One of them I did share for Dark AI. And we have made some tweaks and modifications to that. Actually, we have a couple of internal SaaS type tools that we're doing some really fun stuff with as far as AI is concerned. We're just having a lot of fun with that. I'll leave it at that one. But there's some really cool stuff that we can do.
Yeah, nice. All right. Well, as Jordan says here, great choice for a guest, one of the most solid dudes in the industry.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's right. Brian, thank you, man, so much for being on the show. Appreciate
absolutely.
it. And
it's a pleasure.
Have a safe trip out to Boston next week.
Yeah.
I would imagine you're probably going out Thursday or Friday, sometime around in there. So.
I'll actually touch down Wednesday, and then going to be hanging out. If anyone's doing the VIP thing, I'll be around there. So if you have questions, hit me up. If you're not doing the VIP and you're just at the conference, hit me up there. I present on Friday, and typically we do a kind of an after party deal. We will not be doing that at this particular event just due to some scheduling constraints, but that's another thing that I would definitely encourage people to reach out, kind of connect on. We've got it's kind of a small group called the After Party Mastermind, and it's Merlino, myself, and Brock, and we'll occasionally meet up after some of these conferences while everyone's in town, and kind of do our thing. So
yeah, that's all good. And that's where the really crazy shit comes down.
or at the bar. Like I said, if you're a rock star, hit me up. Hit me up at the bar. I love chatting with people. So.
Yeah, oh, that's good. All right. Well, listen, Brian, thanks so much for being on the show, man. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Pleasure.
Have a good week next week, and we'll see you. I'm not sure exactly for sure. I'm sure I'll see you at SEO Spring Training in April.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wouldn't miss that one at all. That's going to be a fantastic event. So,
all right. Listen, you take care. Have a great week.
Awesome. Take care. Thanks.
All right.